had to take my daughter to urgent care, and I couldn't stop laughing. Not at first. At first, I thought something was wrong. I got to Paige's school 10 minutes early. 20 minutes later, she still hadn't come out. That wasn't normal. Paige was the kind of kid who waited by the gate before the bell even finished ringing. So I went inside. I didn't find her. Her teacher found me. Mrs. Vivian had that face adults make when they already decided your kid is the problem. There was an incident today. My stomach dropped. Paige hurt another student. Here we go. The second she said the name, John Henderson, I already knew. Every parent knew John. He was the kid who bit people, not playfully. Hard. Paige had already come home 3 times that semester with bruises on her arms, purple bite marks with teeth pressed into the skin, and every single time the school gave me the same line. We're handling it. John has behavioral challenges. Boys will be boys. Now suddenly my daughter was the violent one. Mrs. Vivian kept walking. His parents are here. They're considering pressing charges. My hands started shaking. Paige had never hurt anyone. She cried for 20 minutes once because she stepped on an ant. When we reached the office, I saw her through the glass, and my heart stopped. She was sitting in a chair too big for her, braids coming loose. Uniform, wrinkled, and blood. Dark blood dried down the sleeve of her white shirt, not a little enough that I felt sick. She looked up at me, and the weirdest part, she didn't look scared. She looked proud. Tell your dad what happened, Mrs. Vivian said. But before Paige could speak, the door flew open. John's father stormed in, red-faced, his wife behind him, gripping John's shoulder while he held an ice pack to his head. That little animal attacked my son, he shouted. He could have a concussion. We should be calling the police. For half a second, I almost believed them. Then Paige stood up, rolled up her sleeve, and the whole room went quiet. Fresh bite marks. Deep angry. One of them had broken skin, blood still seeping through the bandage. He bit me first, she said softly. Then she looked at me. But that's not why I pushed him. My chest tightened. What do you mean? Mrs. Vivian stepped in. Her voice changed, suddenly careful. Joan had another student cornered behind the playground. Paige spoke before she could continue. It was Rosie. Rosie was in kindergarten. Tiny little girl with leg braces. Sweetest kid in the school. She bumped into him by accident, Paige said. He got mad. I felt cold all over. He had her trapped against the fence, Mrs. Vivian said quietly. She was crying. Why didn't anyone stop him? I asked. Nobody answered. Paige looked down at her sleeve. I stood in front of her. That hit me harder than anything. John bit her arm. Hard. She didn't move, didn't cry, didn't back up. She just stood there between him and a 5-year-old girl who couldn't run. Then he tried to go around her. That's when she shoved him, and his head hit the wall. Silence. I walked over to John. Show me. His mom hesitated. I lifted the ice pack, tiny bump, barely visible. Then I held up Paige's arm. The room changed because suddenly everyone could see it. Who got hurt and who protected someone. Then I said the first thing that came into my head. You know I'm a lawyer, right? That was a lie. A complete lie, but it worked. John's father stopped talking. His mother went pale. What your son did, I said, is assault on a minor. And if you want police involved, we can absolutely do that. Now they were the ones looking nervous. He has issues, his mom said quickly. We're working on it. Funny, that sounded familiar. We took Paige to urgent care. The nurse cleaned the bite and asked what happened. Paige just shrugged. Rosie couldn't run. That's when I almost started laughing. Not because it was funny, because I realized my 5-foot-nothing daughter had more courage than every adult in that school. And here's the twist. When I brought her back the next week, John was gone. His parents pulled him out. Apparently they were terrified of being sued. And the best part? I'm not a lawyer. I sell kitchen cabinets. The voicemail started with my mom screaming my name, then it cut off. That was weird enough, my mom never called me. Not after I left home at 17 with a trash bag and $52. Not after my stepdad told me I was draining the house. Not after she stood there and let him say it. So when I saw 3 missed calls from her at 2:14 a.m., my stomach dropped. I almost didn't listen. Then I heard it. Emily, don't come back here. He knows. Static. A crash. Then nothing. I was already grabbing my keys. The whole drive home, I kept telling myself it was probably another one of their fights. My stepdad drank. He shouted. She cried. That was the soundtrack of my childhood. But when I pulled into the driveway, every light was off, and my front door was open. I stepped inside. The house smelled wrong, like bleach, fresh, sharp, heavy. Mom, nothing. Then I saw it. A wine glass shattered in the kitchen. Her purse on the floor. Phone cracked in half. My heart started pounding. I called 911. Then I heard footsteps upstairs. Slow, careful. Not my mom. I ran straight out the front door and almost slammed into a police officer. He grabbed my shoulders. Emily, I stared at him. How do you know my name? He didn't answer. Just asked, did your mother call you? My blood went cold. Yes. His jaw tightened. We've been trying to reach you. Why? He looked at the house, then back at me. Your stepfather was found dead 3 hours ago. Everything in me stopped. What? He was in the garage. I couldn't breathe. No, my mom. Where's my mom? That's what we need to know. My knees almost gave out. Then something hit me. If he died 3 hours ago, I held up my phone. She called me after that. The officer's face changed. You're sure? I played the voicemail. His expression dropped. That's when he asked me the question that still keeps me up at night. Emily, who do you think was chasing her? The next hour was a blur. Police everywhere. Flashlights, questions, and then they found her. Not in the house, in the backyard, behind the old shed, alive, shaking, covered in mud. When she saw me, she burst into tears and grabbed my face. I thought he'd get you too. I was crying so hard I could barely speak. What happened? She looked at the officers, then at me, and whispered, I killed him. Everything went silent. What? He came after me, she said. He found out I was leaving. He grabbed me. We fought. He fell. The officer stepped forward. Mrs. Carter, we need— No, she snapped. That's not the worst part. She looked straight at me, and suddenly, I felt 6 years old again, terrified. Emily, he wasn't your father. My body went cold. What? He told me if I ever left, he'd tell you. I couldn't process it. Tell me what? She started crying harder. The man who raised you wasn't your father. My ears were ringing. Then who is? She swallowed, then said the one name I never expected, Detective Nolan. The officer standing next to me. The one who knew my name before I said it. The one who got to my house before I did. He looked like all the air had left his body. I didn't know, he said quietly. My phone slipped out of my hand because suddenly the voicemail made sense. Don't come back here, he knows. Not where I lived, who I was, and the worst part, as they put my mother in the back of the police car, Detective Nolan looked at me and said, I've been looking for you for 19 years. My first week working at McDonald's, I made a little girl cry. She couldn't have been older than 6. She was holding a Happy Meal, staring up at me, and asked, "Can I get a vanilla cone too?" I had to say it. "Sorry, the ice cream machine's broken." Her face fell. That should have been the end of it. But then her dad muttered, "It's always broken." And everybody in line laughed. That's when I started paying attention. For the next few days, I kept hearing the same thing. "Broken again? No McFlurry? Seriously?" My coworkers barely reacted. "It's been like that for months," Kayla told me. "Just stop asking." That made no sense. At my uncle's diner, I used to help fix equipment all the time. Fryers, coolers, soda lines, machines usually don't just stay broken. So one slow Tuesday, while the manager was off, I asked the shift lead if I could take a look. He shrugged, "Knock yourself out." I popped the panel open, and honestly, it wasn't some mystery. A clogged valve. Milk residue caked around the sensors. The thing looked less broken than ignored. I spent 3 hours cleaning it, piece by piece. Soon half the crew was standing around me. Kayla said in 5 years she'd never seen anyone even touch it. One guy started taking bets on whether I'd blow the place up. Even customers at the counter were watching. It felt ridiculous, like I was doing surgery on a celebrity. Then I hit the power button. The machine hummed, green lights, all of them. Nobody said a word. I ran a test batch, perfect vanilla soft serve, and the whole place exploded, cheering, clapping. A kid literally yelled, "No way." People who'd already left came back. We sold more cones and McFlurries in 2 hours than they usually sold all week. For the first time since I started, customers were smiling. I went home feeling weirdly proud, like I actually mattered there. The next morning, my manager Karen was waiting for me, not smiling. She handed me a termination notice before I even clocked in. I thought it was a joke. "It wasn't, you tampered with company equipment," she said. I just stared at her. "Tampered? I fixed it. That's the problem." Then she pulled out a binder. Apparently the machine wasn't really ours. It was leased, and only certified technicians were allowed to repair it. By touching it, I'd violated the contract, potentially voided the warranty, created liability. Corporate could fine the franchise thousands. I couldn't even process it, but it works. She leaned back in her chair, and that's when she said something that hit harder than getting fired. "We don't make money from fixing it fast." I blinked. "What?" She sighed. "Every service call costs money. Every approved repair takes paperwork. Sometimes it's cheaper to say it's broken." That's when I understood. It wasn't that nobody could fix it. It was that nobody wanted to. My coworkers were furious. Kayla argued with her. Jason pointed at the sales numbers from the day before. Even regular customers started asking what happened to the guy who fixed the machine. Didn't matter. Rules were rules. She made me work 2 more weeks. And every time someone ordered ice cream, the machine worked perfectly. That somehow made it worse. But here's the twist. On my last day, the crew gave me a goodbye card and a Burger King gift card as a joke. So I actually applied at the Burger King down the street. During the interview, the manager asked why I left McDonald's. I told him the whole story. He laughed so hard he had to sit down. Then he said, "Good. I've got a shake machine that's been dead for 6 months." My siblings called me the caretaker, like it was supposed to embarrass me, like spending 5 years taking care of our dying father somehow made me pathetic. My sister Vanessa said it with this fake little smile every Thanksgiving. "Oh, there's Ethan, Dad's full-time nurse." My older brother Caleb was worse. He acted like I'd wasted my life. "You're 32 and still living at home." Man, yeah, living at home because while they were busy climbing social ladders and bragging about investment portfolios, somebody actually had to help our father survive. Dad had Parkinson's, then heart complications. Then the kind of exhaustion that made walking to the mailbox feel like climbing Everest. For 5 years, I cooked his meals, helped him shower, drove him to appointments, sat beside him during nights when his hands shook so badly he couldn't hold a glass of water. Meanwhile, Vanessa posted yacht photos from Miami. Caleb called once every 3 months asking whether Dad was still hanging in there. Neither of them visited unless there was an audience. And every single time they did, Dad looked smaller afterward, like disappointment physically aged him. The weirdest part, Dad never complained about them. Not once. Even when Caleb missed his surgery because he was at a crypto conference. Even when Vanessa left after 20 minutes because the smell of medication made her uncomfortable. Dad still defended them. "They're busy." No, they just didn't care. Then Dad died on a rainy Tuesday morning in October quietly. In his sleep, I was the one who found him. I remember sitting beside his bed afterward holding his cold hand while Vanessa texted me asking if the funeral would conflict with her Cabo trip. Caleb's first question wasn't how Dad died. It was, "So, what happens with the estate?" That sentence permanently changed how I saw him. Dad had been a famous architect in Chicago before retirement. Not celebrity famous, but wealthy. Very wealthy. The family home alone was worth almost $4 million. That's why my siblings suddenly became extremely emotional after his death. At the funeral, Vanessa cried harder whenever people were watching. Caleb kept talking about preserving Dad's legacy. Neither of them asked how I was doing, not once. 3 days later, we met at the lawyer's office for the will reading. Vanessa arrived wearing designer black, like she was attending Fashion Week, funeral edition. Caleb walked in already discussing real estate values on the phone. I sat quietly at the end of the table, still emotionally wrecked from losing Dad. The lawyer, Mr. Delaney, adjusted his glasses. To my children Vanessa and Caleb. Both of them visibly leaned forward. "I leave the family residence. All investment portfolios, retirement accounts, and liquid assets to be divided equally." Vanessa literally gasped. Caleb smirked immediately. Then they high-fived while I was still grieving our father. I just sat there numb. Not even because of the money, because Dad hadn't mentioned me, not yet. Then Mr. Delaney cleared his throat again. "There is an additional codicil." Vanessa rolled her eyes instantly. "To my youngest son, Ethan." Finally, I leave the rusted toolbox currently located in the garage workshop, as well as the undeveloped swamp property in North County silence. Then Vanessa burst out laughing. Not polite laughing, ugly laughing, the swampland. Caleb grinned. "Oh my God. Dad left Ethan Shrek's backyard," Mr. Delaney continued. "There is also a key hidden beneath the false bottom of the toolbox." Vanessa smirked at me. "Well, enjoy your mosquitoes," then Caleb added. "We're listing the house tomorrow, by the way, so maybe start packing." That one hurt. Because it wasn't just a house to me, it was the last place Dad existed. 24 hours later, they were already bringing realtors through the living room while I boxed up my life. I almost didn't even bother going to the swamp property, but Dad was precise about everything. If he specifically mentioned a toolbox and a key, there had to be a reason. The property sat nearly 2 hours north, dense trees, mud roads, completely isolated. At At first glance, it looked worthless, exactly like Vanessa said, swampy, overgrown, dead quiet. I sat in my truck staring at it, feeling completely defeated. Then I remembered the note taped beneath the toolbox. Ethan, you were the only one who ever saw me instead of my money. The swamp isn't what it seems. Look beneath the old oak tree. I walked nearly half a mile before finding it. Massive oak. Ancient looking. Then I noticed something strange in the dirt nearby. Metal buried under leaves. A hatch. My heart started pounding immediately. I pulled it open slowly. Stairs, leading underground, and at the bottom, I found my father's real legacy. Not a bunker, not storage. An entire hidden luxury earth shelter home built directly into the landscape, concrete walls, floor-to-ceiling glass facing an underground courtyard, custom architecture, solar systems, a hidden library. It looked like something from a billionaire architecture magazine. I just stood there speechless. Dad had built this in secret, his masterpiece. But the real shock came later. Inside the office was a massive steel safe. The key from the toolbox fit perfectly. Inside sat folders, legal documents, trust papers, property deeds, bank ownership records, and one handwritten letter. Ethan, if you're reading this, it means your brother and sister behaved exactly how I expected. I needed to know which of my children valued me more than my wealth. You were the only one who stayed when there was nothing to gain. Years ago, I transferred everything into the Bennett family trust. The house, the investments, every account. The estate mentioned in the will no longer owns any of it. The trust does, and you are the sole trustee. I love you, son. I broke down crying right there in that underground office. Not because of the money, because for the first time in years, I felt seen. 2 weeks later, Vanessa called me screaming. Apparently the bank froze all estate transfers. The house sale collapsed. Caleb's share didn't exist, because legally, they never owned anything. I did. As trustee, every decision required my approval, and I denied every request. Vanessa showed up at the front gate of the family house hysterical. You can't do this to us. I looked at her through the intercom. No, I said calmly. Dad did. Then I hung up. I sold the house 3 months later, liquidated most of the investments, donated part of it to Parkinson's research in Dad's name, and moved permanently into the underground home he secretly spent years building. Sometimes at night, I sit in his old office listening to the rain hit the earth above me, and I think about something Dad once told me during one of his hardest nights. Money doesn't reveal character, Ethan. It exposes it. Turns out he was right about all of us. I punched a girl at school so hard her nose exploded with blood, and for about 5 seconds, everyone thought I was the villain. It started 3 weeks after my little sister transferred to my high school. Her name was Ava, and she was the kind of sweet that made you nervous for her. Like she apologized to chairs when she bumped into them. The problem was this girl named Brianna. Everybody at school treated Brianna like she was untouchable because her mom constantly told people she had special needs. Teachers let her get away with everything. One time I watched her slam another girl's face into a locker hard enough to chip her tooth. The assistant principal ran over screaming, but Brianna instantly started rocking back and forth going, I can't control my emotions. I'm neurodivergent. And just like that, the adults backed off. No suspension, no police report, nothing. The girl she attacked ended up apologizing to her. At first, Brianna ignored my sister. Then one morning, I saw Ava kneeling in the hallway picking up spilled papers, while Brianna stood over her laughing. You're so shaky, Brianna mocked. Why do you act like a scared rabbit? I immediately stepped between them. Leave her alone. Brianna slowly looked me up and down and smiled. Or what? There was something genuinely wrong with the way she smiled, like she enjoyed seeing fear on people's faces. I reported her that same day. The guidance counselor sighed before I even finished talking. Brianna has behavioral challenges. We need to show compassion. Compassion. My sister started begging me to walk her to class because she was scared to be alone in the hallways. Then the notes started. Ugly little things shoved into Ava's backpack. Nobody likes you. Transfer back. Your sister can't protect you forever. Ava stopped eating dinner with us after that. She'd just sit in her room pretending to do homework while crying quietly enough so mom wouldn't hear. But I heard every night. Then came the day everything snapped. I was heading toward the sophomore hallway when I heard screaming. Not yelling, real screaming. I rounded the corner and saw Ava slammed against the lockers, while Brianna had both hands tangled in her hair. My sister's face was red from crying, and Brianna, she was smiling again. Look who came running, she laughed when she saw me. Your emotional support sister. Get your hands off her. Instead, Brianna yanked Ava harder by the hair so violently, her head smacked the locker with this horrible metallic crack. Everything inside me went white hot. I shoved Brianna away from her, hard. She stumbled backward dramatically and slammed into a trophy case. Glass shattered everywhere. The hallway went dead silent. Then Brianna started screaming. She attacked me. She attacked a disabled student. Teachers came sprinting from every direction. Ava was still on the floor crying and holding the back of her head, but nobody looked at her first. They looked at me. I got dragged straight to the principal's office while students filmed everything on their phones. By the time my mom arrived, Brianna's mother was already there, threatening lawsuits. My daughter has documented neurological disorders, she shouted dramatically. That violent girl assaulted her. My principal nodded along like a bobblehead. Then my mom walked in and the room changed. My mother worked as a paralegal for 12 years. She had this terrifying calmness when she got angry. She sat down slowly and folded her hands. Okay, she said. Show me the diagnosis. Silence. Brianna's mom blinked. Excuse me. The medical paperwork, my mother repeated. The documentation the school supposedly has on file explaining why this child has repeatedly assaulted students. The principal suddenly looked nervous. Brianna's mother started stumbling over her words. Well, we're between evaluations right now. My mom leaned forward. So you mean to tell me this school allowed a violent student to physically attack multiple children based entirely on your word? Nobody answered. Then my mom pulled out a folder. Inside were screenshots, emails, photos of bruises, witness statements from other parents, and one particular video. A girl from choir had secretly recorded Brianna in the parking lot 2 days earlier laughing with friends. I swear pretending to stim works every time, Brianna said in the video. Teachers are terrified of getting canceled. The principal literally went pale. Brianna's mother looked like she might throw up, and for the first time ever, Brianna stopped smiling. 3 days later, she disappeared from school entirely. Rumor was her mom quietly withdrew her before the district could launch an investigation. But the craziest part, about 6 months later, another girl transferred into our school from Brianna's new district. When she heard her name, she went completely silent. Then she rolled up her sleeve and showed us scars from fingernail scratches, and quietly said, "Wait, you survived Brianna too?" The worst phone call of my life happened during my daughter's 7th birthday party. I was in the kitchen frosting cupcakes when my phone rang from an unknown number. Hello? A woman with a thick accent answered. Hello, I want to buy your child. I literally dropped the cupcake tray. Frosting splattered across the floor. What? I whispered. Yes, she said calmly. I want to buy your daughter. My blood went ice cold. No, the hell you are not. I screamed so loud my sister in the living room stopped singing happy birthday, but the woman just replied, okay, and hung up. I stood there shaking so hard I almost couldn't breathe. My daughter Lily was supposed to be coming home from gymnastics with an Uber driver because I'd gotten stuck working late setting up her birthday decorations. I immediately called my ex-husband Ryan. Where's Lily? She should be almost home, he said. Why? The driver just called saying she wants to buy our daughter. Silence. Then I heard him start cursing. I grabbed my keys and sprinted out of the apartment barefoot. My mom chased after me asking what was wrong, but I was already in the parking lot dialing 911 with trembling fingers. The dispatcher kept trying to calm me down while I drove through red lights like a psychopath. What's the vehicle description? Gray Honda CRV, I gasped. Please, my daughter's only 7. I called Lily's little emergency phone over and over, straight to voicemail every time. Hi, you reached Lily Bean. Her tiny voice chirped happily. Leave me a message. I almost crashed my car crying. My mind was going insane, imagining horrible things. Human trafficking, kidnapping, ransom. Every true crime story I'd ever heard started replaying in my head. Then Ryan called me back screaming. The police found the car. My entire body went numb. Is she okay? They think so. Meet us there. I have never driven that fast in my life. When I got there were police cars everywhere surrounding the gray SUV, like it was a terrorist situation. Officers had weapons drawn, neighbors were recording on their phones, and sitting calmly on the curb was my daughter, eating cake. Pink frosting covered her cheeks while she happily swung her legs beside a female police officer. Mommy, she yelled excitedly when she saw me. This lady let me sit in the police car. I collapsed onto my knees, hugging her so hard she started laughing. Mom, you're squishing me. Ryan got there seconds later looking like he'd aged 10 years. We were both crying so hard, Lily started getting confused. Then I finally looked at the driver. She was this tiny, older Middle Eastern woman wearing a floral hijab and clutching her purse like she thought the cops were about to execute her. She looked terrified. One of the officers pulled me aside, so we figured out what happened. Apparently the driver's name was Nadia. She owned a bakery with her sisters. During the ride, Lily had mentioned it was her birthday and that her mommy was making cupcakes. Nadia wanted to surprise her with a free birthday cake from the bakery because they had leftovers they were going to throw away. The problem? English wasn't her first language, so instead of saying, I want permission to bring your child a birthday cake, she accidentally said, I want to buy your child. I stared at the officer. You're kidding. He shook his head trying not to laugh. Nadia immediately pulled out her phone translator and started frantically typing. Then the robotic voice said, I am very sorry, I did not want to purchase the small girl. Even the cops lost it laughing. Lily held up the little birthday cake proudly. It had happy 7th birthday Lily, written in purple frosting. Then my daughter innocently said something that made everything worse. She almost cried when I told her nobody came to my birthday last year. Ryan and I both froze. Last year had been during our divorce. We'd spent the entire day fighting over custody, while Lily sat alone eating grocery store cupcakes. Nadia looked horrified when she realized why Lily said that. Through the translator app she explained, no child should feel forgotten on birthday. That completely broke me. This woman accidentally triggered a citywide kidnapping panic because she was trying to make my daughter feel loved. We ended up going to Nadia's bakery the next weekend to apologize properly. Lily hugged her the second we walked in, and honestly, the bakery became part of our routine. After that, Nadia started teaching Lily Arabic phrases while sneaking her free cookies. Ryan and I still divorced 6 months later, but weirdly enough, the woman I thought was trying to steal my daughter ended up becoming one of the kindest people in her life. I was literally eating Doritos when 12 police officers pulled guns on me. Get on the ground. At first, I honestly thought it was a prank. Then I saw teachers screaming, students running actual assault rifles pointed directly at my chest. The Dorito chip fell out of my hand as I dropped to my knees in the parking lot. Put the weapon down now. I don't have a weapon, I screamed back. My voice cracked so badly it barely sounded human. It's just chips. 2 days earlier, our school had installed a brand new AI security system. Principal Maddox had spent an entire assembly bragging about it. These cameras can detect threats instantly, she'd announced proudly. Weapons, violent behavior, suspicious movement. This school is now the safest campus in Texas. Everybody clapped. Now I was face down on hot asphalt with a cop's knee digging into my spine. Someone yanked my arms behind my back so hard I cried out. Handcuffs snapped shut. My backpack got ripped open right there in the parking lot. Folders, tampons, lip gloss, math homework, everything scattered across the ground while students filmed from their phones. One officer dumped out my pencil pouch like bullets were about to fall out. Nothing. Another officer ran toward the school yelling into her radio. Search her locker. I couldn't stop shaking. What is happening? I kept asking. Nobody answered. Then Principal Maddox marched over looking weirdly excited, like she was already imagining herself on the news. The AI identified you carrying a weapon near the east entrance, she announced loudly. Students nearby gasped. My stomach dropped. What? The system tracked you from the parking lot to the hallway. Multiple camera confirmations. I didn't bring a weapon. You need to cooperate, Savannah, one officer said firmly. This gets easier if you tell us where you hid it. My chemistry teacher, Mrs. Calloway, appeared beside them. She looked genuinely heartbroken. Savannah, honey, please just tell the truth. That hurt worse than the handcuffs. Because she knew me, I cried during earthquake drills. I once had a panic attack because somebody brought a fake spider into class. You seriously think I brought a weapon to school? I asked her. Mrs. Calloway hesitated. Then she said the sentence that made me lose faith in every adult there. The system flagged you for a reason. Not we trust you. Not maybe. There's a mistake. The system said it, so it had to be true. For the next 30 minutes, they searched everything. My locker, bathrooms, trash cans, even ceiling tiles. Meanwhile, I sat handcuffed outside while the entire school stared at me through classroom windows. Girls were crying. Some people were already posting TikToks. One caption literally said, "Quiet girl finally snapped. I wanted to throw up." Then the lead officer came back furious. We found nothing. Principal Maddox crossed her arms immediately. She could have passed it to someone. Another officer shook her head. The AI tracked her continuously. No contact. I started crying out of frustration. For the 100th time, I don't have anything, but nobody listened, because apparently a computer mattered more than I did. Finally, after almost an hour, one officer slammed her notebook shut. Show us the footage. The security office filled instantly. Teachers, admins, cops, even the school board lady. Everybody crowded around the monitors while I stood there still handcuffed. The tech specialist pulled up the footage. There I was walking through the hallway that morning. The video paused right as I reached into my tote bag. Enhance that, the officer ordered. The screen zoomed in, blurry at first, then clearer, then crystal clear. The room went completely silent, because in my hand was a bag of nacho cheese Doritos. That's it. A freaking snack bag. The tech specialist swallowed hard and pulled up the AI detection overlay. Bright red warning text flashed across the screen. Threat detected. Orange triangular weapon. Nobody spoke. Not one person. Principal Maddox's face went white. One officer slowly looked down at the evidence bag beside her desk. Inside it, my half-eaten Doritos. The lead officer unlocked my handcuffs without saying a word. My wrists were bright red. Mrs. Calloway looked like she wanted to cry, but I was too angry to care anymore. Because every single adult in that building had trusted a machine over me, even after knowing me for years. Then Principal Maddox suddenly tried laughing. Well, I guess we know the system needs tweaking. No, I cut her off. The room went dead quiet. You humiliated me in front of the entire school. Nobody moved. Nobody even blinked. I walked over to the evidence table, picked up my confiscated Doritos, opened the bag slowly, took one chip out, and ate it while making eye contact with every single person in that room. The substitute teacher walked into class and said, "Okay, everyone whose parents are divorced, move to the left side of the room." The entire class went quiet. I remember looking around, waiting for somebody to laugh because it sounded like the weirdest icebreaker ever. But the teacher just stood there smiling, so kids actually started moving. About half the class shuffled left. I stayed on the right side with the other kids whose parents were still together. The substitute nodded slowly, like she was taking mental notes. Then she said, "Good. Now everyone who has a dog stay standing. Everyone else sit down." 3 kids sat down immediately. I laughed nervously under my breath because what kind of game was this? But nobody wanted to question an adult. The teacher kept going. Right side only. Anyone who walks to school move to the back of the classroom. My stomach tightened a little. I walked to the back with 4 other kids. The substitute watched us carefully. Too carefully. Now, anyone who stops somewhere before school, like a gas station or coffee shop, stay standing. 2 more kids sat down. Only me and another girl named Madison were left standing. The room suddenly felt too quiet. The substitute tilted her head. "Madison, sit down if you only stop there on Fridays." Madison sat. Now I was alone. Standing in the back corner of the classroom, the substitute stared directly at me for like 5 full seconds. Not smiling anymore. Just staring. Then suddenly her expression changed completely. Like relief. "Perfect," she said softly. Then she clapped her hands once. "Everybody back to your seats." The class exploded into whispers immediately. What was that about? That was creepy. Is she allowed to ask us that? But the substitute acted like nothing happened. She turned around and started teaching fractions. Meanwhile, I couldn't focus at all because I stopped at the same place every morning, a little corner market on Willow Street, and somehow she'd narrowed 30 kids down to me specifically. At lunch, I told my best friend Chloe everything. She laughed at first. Maybe, she's just crazy. But then she stopped smiling. Wait, did she ever tell us her name? My stomach dropped. She hadn't. After lunch, we walked back into class, and the substitute was gone. Principal Mercer stood at the front, instead looking pale. Actually pale, like somebody had died. "Everyone sit down quietly," he said. Nobody moved. He looked straight at me. "Claire, I need you to come with me." Every kid in the room started staring. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. In the office, both of my parents were already there. 2 police officers too. That's when I knew something was seriously wrong. Officer Daniels sat across from me holding a notebook. "Claire," he said carefully, "we need to ask about your morning routine." I felt sick instantly. What's happening? 3 weeks earlier, the owner of the Willow Street Market had been robbed. Mr. Bennett, 73 years old. Sweetest man alive. He used to give me free gummy bears when I bought orange juice before school. During the robbery, he suffered a heart attack and died before the ambulance arrived. I felt like all the air left the room. There was one witness, Officer Daniels continued, a middle school girl walking past the store around 7:40 a.m. My mom squeezed my hand tighter. "We believe the woman pretending to be your substitute teacher today was the robber." I froze. "She came to your school under a fake identity to figure out which students saw her that morning." Suddenly, every weird question made sense. Divorced parents, dogs walking to school, corner store. She wasn't playing a game. She was hunting for me. My skin went ice cold. Officer Daniels leaned forward. "Do you remember seeing anyone outside the store that morning?" At first, I shook my head. Then little details started coming back. Gray hoodie, coffee smell, a woman bumping into my shoulder while rushing outside. I remembered apologizing to her automatically, even though she almost knocked me over. Then my entire body stiffened. "The sweater?" I whispered. "What?" She wore the same sweater today. Everyone in the room went silent. The substitute teacher, gray sweater, tiny coffee stain on the sleeve. One of the officers immediately looked at the other. They already knew. Principal Mercer suddenly spoke up quietly. She specifically asked to teach Claire's classroom this morning. My dad stood up so fast his chair scraped the floor. "What?" Then came the worst part. Officer Daniels slid a photo across the table. School security footage. The substitute teacher smiling at the front desk, fake glasses, different hairstyle, but the same woman. And suddenly, another memory hit me so hard I almost threw up. That morning outside the store, she hadn't just bumped into me. She'd grabbed my backpack. For 1 second, long enough to look directly at my name tag. That's how she knew exactly who to find. I started shaking uncontrollably. My mom wrapped both arms around me immediately. "They caught her," I whispered. Officer Daniels nodded slowly. "Not yet." That word destroyed me. Not yet. Meaning she was still out there. Meaning she knew my face, my school, my routine. Then Principal Mercer said something that made everything even worse. She signed into the office using the name Emily Carter. I blinked, because that wasn't random. Emily Carter was the name of a missing teacher from another county. A teacher who disappeared 2 months earlier. The room went dead silent. 2 days later, police finally caught the woman at a motel near the state line, and the missing teacher. They found her car abandoned in the woods. The real Emily Carter had never come back out. My fiancé forgot his phone at my apartment. It kept vibrating across the kitchen counter while I was making coffee. Buzz, buzz, buzz. At first I ignored it. Then I saw the contact name lighting up the screen over and over. Mom, 5 texts in less than a minute. I normally never snoop, but something about the urgency felt wrong, like panic. So I finally picked up the phone just to silence it, and the newest message popped onto the screen. Did she find out what happened to the first one? My stomach dropped so fast, I physically grabbed the counter. I stared at the message trying to make it make sense. First one? What first one? Another text appeared immediately. Call me now. I laughed nervously to myself, because there had to be a normal explanation. Maybe his first fiancé, maybe an ex-girlfriend, maybe his mom was dramatic, but then another message came through. You said this one wasn't as curious as Amelia. This one, not Emily, not your fiancé. This one, like I was a replacement appliance. Suddenly, the apartment felt too quiet. My fiancé's name was Ryan. We'd been together 2 years, engaged for 4 months. Golden retriever boyfriend energy, sweet, patient. The kind of man who remembered tiny details like my Starbucks order and the name of my childhood dog. But as I stood there, holding his vibrating phone, little things started replaying in my head differently. The way he avoided talking about his ex, the way his mom stared at me the first time we met, the fact that every photo from before age 26 had somehow been lost. Buzz, another message. If she starts asking questions, do not let her go to the lake house. I stopped breathing because Ryan had literally invited me to his family's lake house that weekend. I unlocked the phone before I could stop myself. No password, just his face ID missing because he wasn't there. But message previews stayed visible, and there were dozens, most deleted, but not all. I opened the thread. The first surviving message was from 8 months earlier. She looks so much like Amelia, it's scary. Then, be careful this time. Cold spread through my chest. I scrolled faster. Most of Ryan's replies were deleted, but one remained. I'm handling it better than Dad did. I felt physically sick. Dad did. Did what? Then I saw a photo attachment lower in the thread. My finger hovered over it. Every instinct told me not to open it. I opened it anyway. It was a picture of a woman, brown hair, green sweater, smiling beside a lake. At first, I didn't recognize her. Then my knees almost gave out because she looked exactly like me. Not kinda, not vaguely. Exactly. Same hair, same eyes, same smile. The caption underneath read, Amelia, summer 2019. I dropped the phone onto the counter like it burned me. My hands were shaking violently now. I grabbed my laptop and searched Ryan's full name alongside Amelia. Nothing. No tagged photos, no engagement announcement, no obituary, nothing. Like she'd been erased. Then I searched the lake house address and finally found something. A tiny local newspaper article from 6 years earlier. Woman missing near Lake Crescent. My heart nearly stopped. The article said 27-year-old Amelia Hart disappeared during a boating weekend with her boyfriend's family. Search efforts unsuccessful. Boyfriend declined comment. Boyfriend, no name listed. But I already knew. I heard keys jingling outside my apartment door. Ryan. I slammed the laptop shut instantly. My pulse exploded. Babe, he called cheerfully while unlocking the door. I forced myself to breathe normally. He walked in smiling, then immediately noticed his phone in my hand and froze. Not confused, frozen. The smile disappeared so fast it scared me. You looked through my phone? His voice sounded calm, too calm. I tried speaking casually. Your mom kept texting. His eyes flicked toward the screen, then toward the laptop, then back to me. And for the first time in 2 years, I saw something cold behind his face. Claire, he said softly. What exactly did you read? Every survival instinct in my body activated at once. I stepped backward. Who's Amelia? Silence. Ryan stared at me for 3 straight seconds. Then he smiled again, but this smile was wrong. Empty. She was sick. My throat tightened. What does that mean? She got paranoid near the end. Near the end. Not after the breakup. Not before she left. Near the end. I felt nauseous. Ryan stepped closer slowly. You shouldn't have gone through my phone. I backed up again. Ryan, what happened to her? Then his expression changed completely, annoyance. Like I was creating inconvenience. She drowned. The room went silent. She fell out of the boat at night. He continued calmly. Nobody could find her. Nobody? My parents were asleep? Something about the speed of his answers terrified me. Like he'd rehearsed them. Then his phone buzzed again in my hand. Mom, Ryan lunged for it instantly. Too fast. I pulled away on instinct. The phone slipped from both our hands and smashed face up on the kitchen floor. One final text lit the cracked screen. If she knows about Amelia, don't make the same mistake twice. We both stared at it. Then slowly, Ryan looked up at me and locked the apartment door behind him. My daughter came home from first grade and asked why her teacher called me by my maiden name. I hadn't used that name in 11 years. Not since I disappeared. My daughter Lily was 6, gap-tooth smile, purple backpack, obsessed with drawing horses. Even though they looked more like microwave dogs, she burst through the front door after school like usual. Mommy. Then immediately stopped in the kitchen. Why does my teacher call you Miss Carter? Every muscle in my body locked because my name wasn't Carter anymore. It hadn't been Carter since I married my husband, Ethan. Who said that? I asked carefully. My teacher, Miss Holloway. The coffee mug slipped slightly in my hand because nobody here knew that name. We moved 3 states away when Lily was born. New city, new jobs, new life. That was the point. I forced a smile. She probably got confused, sweetheart. But Lily shook her head immediately. No, she said she knew you before you became Mrs. Bennett. Cold flooded my chest. How exactly did she say it? Lily dropped her backpack and mimicked her teacher perfectly. Your mommy used to be very hard to find. My stomach turned so violently I almost threw up because that wasn't random. That was a message. 11 years earlier when I was 22, I vanished without telling anyone except my older sister. New phone, new state, new identity online. I cut off every single person from my hometown after escaping my ex-boyfriend, Daniel. Daniel wasn't physically abusive at first. That's what made him dangerous. He was charming, patient, obsessive in ways people called romantic, until he started tracking my location, showing up at work unexpectedly, reading my texts while I slept. By the end, he'd isolated me from almost everyone. The final straw came when I woke up one night and found him standing over my bed watching me sleep. Smiling the next morning, I left and I never went back. For 11 years, I thought he'd never found me, until my daughter said my maiden name at the dinner table. That night, after Lily fell asleep, I searched the school staff page, and there she was, Miss Rebecca Holloway, first grade teacher, blonde, 30-ish, warm smile. But something about her face bothered me. I stared at her photo for almost 10 minutes before realizing why she looked familiar. Not directly, but familiar enough to make my skin crawl. Then it hit me. She had Daniel's eyes. I barely slept that night. The next morning, I walked Lily into school myself. Miss Holloway greeted us outside the classroom. The second her eyes met mine, she smiled too wide. Mrs. Bennett, she said politely, but there was something underneath it, recognition. I grabbed Lily's shoulder instinctively. Miss Holloway crouched down beside her. Lily's been telling me all about your family. My heart started pounding. Then she looked back at me and added quietly, "It's amazing how far people can run." My blood went ice cold. I immediately pulled Lily from school sick that day. By the time we got home, I was shaking so badly I could barely unlock the front door. I called Ethan at work. "Pack a bag right now? What happened?" "I think he found us." Silence. Ethan knew everything about Daniel, the stalking, the police reports, the restraining order that somehow never stuck. "Claire," he whispered, "Daniel's dead." I froze. "What? He died 8 years ago." I stopped breathing. "What are you talking about?" Ethan sounded confused now. "I showed you the obituary." No, he didn't. Or if he did, I never saw it. My hands trembled while I searched Daniel's name online. And there it was, obituary, 8 years earlier car accident, survived by his younger sister, Rebecca Holloway. The room spun. Oh my god, the teacher wasn't Daniel, it was his sister. And suddenly, I remembered the one person who always watched silently while Daniel spiraled, Rebecca 16 years old. Quiet. Always sitting in the corner during family dinners. Watching me back then, I thought she pitied me. Now I realized something horrifying. She idolized him. That evening, someone knocked on our front door. 3 soft knocks. I looked through the peephole. Rebecca stood there smiling, holding one of Lily's drawings. "How did you get my address?" I whispered through the door. She tilted her head. "You gave it to the school." My stomach dropped. Then she said something that made my knees nearly buckle. "You know, my brother kept journals about you." I stayed silent. "He wrote about the day you disappeared." Her smile widened slightly. "He said if he couldn't have you, maybe someday I could." I immediately grabbed my phone to call the police. But before I could dial, Rebecca calmly held up her own phone. I wouldn't do that. My blood froze because on her screen was a live video feed of Lily's bedroom, upstairs, sleeping. I stopped breathing completely. Rebecca's expression softened almost sympathetically. "You really should check your daughter's stuffed animals more carefully." Then she leaned closer to the door and whispered, "He hid things in toys too." My little sister's teacher asked if anyone at home ever checked her breathing while she slept. That question destroyed my family. My sister Ava was 6 years old, tiny little thing, always carrying around stuffed animals with missing eyes because she refused to throw any of them away. 2 years earlier, our mom died in a car accident during a thunderstorm. At least, that's what we were told. After the funeral, everything changed. Dad became distant, quiet, the kind of quiet that made the whole house feel uncomfortable. He stopped cooking real meals, stopped smiling. Sometimes I'd catch him staring at old photos of mom for hours, like he was waiting for her to walk back into the room. But Ava handled it differently. She acted like mom never really left. At first, we thought it was just grief. Normal kid stuff. She'd still draw pictures of our family with mom standing in the middle, still set an extra plate at dinner sometimes, still say things like, "Mommy likes this song." Whenever the radio came on, the therapist said it was part of processing loss, so nobody questioned it, until her teacher pulled me aside after school one afternoon. Miss Carter looked nervous, like genuinely unsettled. "Emily," she said quietly, "can I ask you something a little strange?" I nodded. She glanced toward Ava coloring at a nearby table. "Does anyone in your family check on Ava while she sleeps?" I frowned. "What do you mean?" Miss Carter adjusted her glasses nervously. Today during health class, we talked about bedtime routines. Ava told the class her mommy comes into her room every night to check if she's still breathing. My stomach tightened instantly. I forced a laugh. "Her mom passed away." Miss Carter's face drained of color. "What?" "She died 2 years ago." The room went dead silent. Then Miss Carter whispered, "Ava also said, your mom wears the blue dress she was buried in." Every hair on my arm stood up. Because that dress was never posted online. No funeral photos existed. Nobody outside our family knew about it. I drove home shaking. Ava sat in the backseat humming to herself while playing with a stuffed rabbit. Finally, I asked carefully, "Ava, what did you tell your teacher today?" "That mommy checks my breathing." Her voice was casual, like she was talking about the weather. "Honey," I swallowed hard. "Mommy can't do that." "I know," she replied softly. That answer somehow scared me more. "What do you mean you know?" "She comes after Dad falls asleep." I nearly missed a red light. I looked back at her through the mirror. "What exactly happens?" Ava shrugged. "She sits on my bed." "What else?" "She cries a lot." The way she said it was so matter of fact it made me nauseous. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Dad brushed the whole thing off. "She's a kid," he muttered while drinking his third beer. Kids imagine things, but he wouldn't look me in the eye while saying it. That bothered me a lot. Around midnight, I grabbed a blanket and decided to sleep in Ava's room. Just to prove to myself this was all grief-fueled imagination. Ava fell asleep quickly. The house became silent except for the occasional creaking pipes. At around 2:13 a.m., Ava suddenly sat straight upright in bed, not slowly, instantly, like someone had yanked her awake. Her eyes stared directly toward the bedroom closet. Then she whispered, "Mommy's here." The room turned freezing cold, not metaphorically, actually cold. I could suddenly see my breath. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to run. Then the closet door creaked open by itself, slowly creak. I grabbed Ava's hand so hard she whimpered. Inside the darkness, I saw blue fabric, just barely visible, like someone standing motionless inside the closet. Watching us then, Ava smiled. "Mommy says hi." I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Then footsteps thundered down the hallway. Dad burst into the room, and the closet door slammed shut violently. Bang! Dad froze in the doorway, sweating, terrified, not confused, not shocked, terrified. That's when I realized something worse than ghosts was happening. "Dad," I whispered, "why do you look scared?" His face completely fell apart. He sat down on the edge of Ava's bed and started crying, real crying, the kind that comes from somewhere deep and ugly. Finally, after 2 years, he told us the truth. The night Mom died wasn't an accident, not completely. They'd been fighting in the car, screaming at each other. Dad admitted Mom wanted to leave him. She found out he'd been cheating, and during the argument, he said something horrible. I told her I wished she would just disappear. His voice cracked. She looked at me and drove faster. The room felt suffocating. Dad buried his face in his hands. I grabbed the wheel for 1 second trying to stop her. My blood ran cold. 1 second was enough. Ava looked toward the closet again, then quietly said, "Mommy says that's not the part you're lying about." Dad stopped breathing. Slowly, he looked toward the closet too, and for the first time in my life, I saw pure fear in my father's eyes. Then from inside the closet, 3 slow knocks echoed through the room. "Knock, knock," and Ava whispered, "She wants you to tell me what happened to the other woman in the car." My boyfriend's mom hugged me at dinner and whispered, "If he proposes tonight, say no." Then she slid a pregnancy test into my purse. I thought she was trying to ruin my relationship. I had no idea she was trying to save my life. His name was Mason. Golden retriever energy. Perfect smile, finance job. The kind of man my friends called husband material after meeting him once. We'd been dating 11 months when he invited me to his parents' lake house for 4th of July weekend. I was nervous because I'd never met his family. Mason kept reassuring me the whole drive. "My mom's gonna love you." That should have comforted me. Instead, it weirdly sounded rehearsed. The second we arrived, his mother opened the door before we even knocked. Diane, beautiful in a cold, expensive way. Pearl earrings, perfect posture, and eyes that immediately locked onto me like she was studying evidence. She hugged me tightly, too tightly, then whispered directly into my ear, "If he asks tonight, say no? I froze. What? But she'd already pulled away smiling. Mason, sweetheart, help your father with the grill. Like nothing happened. The entire afternoon felt wrong after that. His dad barely spoke. His younger sister looked terrified of everyone, and Diane kept watching me, not judging, worrying. At dinner, Mason reached under the table and squeezed my hand. You okay? Before I could answer, his mother dropped a wine glass. It shattered everywhere. Everyone jumped except Mason. He looked annoyed. Diane stared at me while kneeling to clean it, then quietly said, Emily, could you help me in the kitchen? The second we were alone, she grabbed my wrist. Are you on birth control? My stomach dropped. What? You need to answer me honestly. I pulled away immediately. That's insanely inappropriate. She looked like she wanted to say something else, then stopped herself. Instead, she opened a drawer, pulled out a small box, and shoved it into my purse. A pregnancy test. What the hell is wrong with you? I whispered, her eyes filled with tears instantly. Please. That was it. Just please. Then Mason walked in, and Diane's entire personality changed. Bright smile, calm voice, desserts ready. Like the conversation never happened. That night, fireworks exploded outside while everyone drank on the dock. Mason disappeared briefly to grab something from inside. The second he left, his sister Harper leaned toward me fast. You need to leave. Every hair on my body stood up. What? Her hands were shaking. He gets worse after engagement. My heart stopped. Before I could ask anything, Mason came back smiling with a velvet ring box. The entire family went silent. No excitement, no cheering, just silence. Then Mason got down on one knee, and his mother started crying. Not happy, crying, terrified crying. Emily Parker, he smiled. Will you marry me? I looked around, his father staring at the floor, Harper visibly panicking, Diane shaking her head almost invisibly. Something inside me screamed, so I said, can I think about it? Mason froze. The smile didn't disappear, but something behind it did. For half a second, his face became completely empty. Of course, too calm, way too calm. Later that night, I locked myself in the guest room and finally opened the pregnancy test box. Inside wasn't just a test. There was a folded note, 3 words. Check the vent. I stared at it for 10 straight seconds, then slowly looked toward the air vent near the floor. I actually debated ignoring it, because this was insane. But curiosity won. I unscrewed the vent cover with a butter knife and found dozens of folded papers shoved inside. My hands started shaking immediately. They were letters, all written by women, different handwriting, different dates, but every single one started similarly. If you're reading this, you're probably engaged to Mason. My blood turned to ice. One letter described him smashing a girl's phone because she went to brunch without texting him back. Another described him locking someone in a bathroom during arguments. Another said, he tracks your cycle. Don't get pregnant. Pregnancy is when he stops pretending. I physically stopped breathing. Then I found a photo. Bruised wrists, bruised neck, and written on the back. He said nobody would believe me because he comes from a perfect family. I heard footsteps outside the bedroom. I quickly shoved everything back into the vent. Then Mason knocked softly. You okay in there? I couldn't answer because suddenly every little thing made sense. The constant location sharing, the subtle guilt trips, the way he once got angry because a waiter called me pretty. Then Mason's voice came again. Softer this time, Emily. The doorknob moved slightly locked. Silence. Then finally, don't embarrass me in front of my family. Cold flooded my chest because it wasn't a request. It was a warning. I barely slept. At 3 a.m. I quietly packed my bag when I opened the bedroom door. Diane was already standing there, like she'd been waiting. She looked exhausted. You found the letters. Not a question. I nodded slowly. Why didn't you stop him? Tears immediately filled her eyes. Because I married his father. That answer hit me instantly. Generational learned behavior. Fear. Then she whispered. I failed the others. I couldn't fail you too. My throat tightened. How many others were there? She looked away. 3 engagements. My stomach dropped, and none of them stayed. Because of the letters. No, she whispered. Because eventually they all escaped. Then footsteps creaked upstairs. Mason. Diane immediately shoved car keys into my hand. Go. Now. What about you? Her smile broke my heart. Mothers like me don't usually leave. Then she quietly added, but maybe daughters still can. I drove 3 hours home shaking the locked Mason on everything. Changed my locks, and 2 weeks later, I took the pregnancy test. Negative. Thank God. But sometimes I still think about Diane standing in that hallway alone, waiting for another girl to save before her son became someone else's nightmare. My roommate kept setting alarms for 3:17 a.m. every single night. Then one night, she didn't wake up for it. That's when I heard the knocking. Her name was Chloe, nursing student, chronically sleep deprived, the kind of girl who drank iced coffee at midnight and called it self-care. We shared a tiny off-campus apartment near our university, and every night for 6 months straight, an alarm went off at exactly 3:17 a.m. Not 3:15, not 3:20, exactly 3:17. At first, I hated it. The alarm sound was awful too. Not a normal ringtone, just this loud old school bell sound that felt aggressive in the dark. Every single night, it would blast once and immediately stop. Because Chloe always woke up instantly to turn it off. Then she'd leave the room for around 5 minutes. Come back, go back to sleep. I asked her about it once. She laughed nervously. Family thing, that was it. No explanation. Over time, it became weirdly normal. Until one Thursday night, we both stayed up late, cramming for finals. Chloe was exhausted, like scary exhausted. At one point, she literally fell asleep sitting upright with flashcards in her hand before bed. She looked at me strangely. If my alarm goes off tonight, don't answer the door. I laughed. What door? She didn't answer. Just climbed into bed. At 3:17 a.m., the alarm exploded through the apartment. I jolted awake immediately, but Chloe didn't move at all. Chloe, I mumbled. Nothing. The alarm kept screaming. I sat up. Chloe, still nothing. That's when panic hit me because she always woke up immediately. I grabbed her shoulder and shook her harder. Her skin felt freezing cold. Then finally, she opened her eyes wide, terrified. Not sleepy, terrified. Did you answer it? She whispered. What? The door. My stomach tightened. Then 3 knocks echoed through the apartment. Slow, heavy, directly at our front door. 3:17 a.m. Exactly. Chloe started hyperventilating instantly. No, 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 no. I turned on my phone flashlight. What the hell is happening? Another 3 knocks. The apartment suddenly felt too quiet. No traffic outside. No neighbors. Nothing. Just knocking. Chloe grabbed my wrist painfully hard. Do not open it. Who is it? Tears filled her eyes immediately. I don't know anymore. That sentence made my blood run cold. The knocking came again. This time louder. Bang, bang. Then a man's voice, soft, calm. Chloe. Every hair on my body stood up because somehow he sounded close. Too close. Like he was standing right beside me instead of outside the apartment. Chloe buried her face in her knees. He found me. What are you talking about? She looked up slowly and whispered. My brother died at 3:17. The room went silent. When we were kids. She continued shakily. Someone knocked on our front door in the middle of the night. Another knock interrupted her. Bang, bang, bang. We thought it was our dad coming home drunk again. Her voice cracked. My brother opened the door. I couldn't breathe and there was nobody there. Cold spread through my chest. Then she whispered. But after that, he started acting different. The knocking stopped completely. Silence swallowed the apartment. Then Chloe said something worse. He kept hearing knocking every night after. I stared at her. He stopped sleeping. He said something stood outside his bedroom window every night. At 3:17 asking to be let in. My skin crawled instantly. Then came the worst part. 1 week later, she whispered. My brother killed himself. Another voice suddenly came through the door. This time female, you should let us in. Chloe. I physically froze because the voice sounded exactly like Chloe. She heard it too. I watched the color drain from her face. That's not possible. The voice laughed softly outside. Then mom misses you. Chloe started crying. Our mom died last year. I grabbed my phone immediately. I'm calling the police. No. She lunged toward me so fast it scared me. If you talk to them, it notices. What notices? Then the doorknob slowly started turning. Not rattling, turning like someone had a key. I backed away instinctively, Chloe. That's why I set the alarm. Her entire body was shaking. I have to be awake before it comes. I stared at her. What comes? She looked toward the front door and whispered, the thing pretending to be people we love. The lock clicked, unlocked. Neither of us moved. Then the door slowly creaked open. Dark hallway outside, empty, at first. Then my phone flashlight flickered toward the end of the hall and landed on a man standing completely still, tall, wrong somehow, like his arms were too long, his face hidden in shadow, but his voice sounded exactly like my dad. Honey, it said gently, come here. I almost moved automatically. That's the horrifying part, because it sounded real, warm, safe. Then Chloe screamed. Don't look at its face. I shut my eyes instantly. The thing laughed softly, not human laughter, wet gurgling. Then footsteps started moving toward us, slowly dragging. I grabbed Chloe's arm. What do we do? She was sobbing now. It only leaves if someone answers the door willingly. My heart stopped. What? Then the thing spoke again. Now using my little sister's voice, Emma. Tears filled my eyes instantly because my sister died 3 years earlier. Car accident. Instantly. I hadn't heard her voice since. Please, it whispered. I'm cold. I almost broke right there. Almost. Then Chloe screamed at me. That's how it gets in. The thing stopped walking. Silence. Then slowly, I heard smiling in its voice. Someone. Chloe went completely still beside me and whispered, that's never happened before. Then the apartment lights shut off, pitch black, and directly beside my ear, something whispered in my dead sister's voice. You were easier when you were grieving. My roommate kept setting alarms for 3:17 a.m. every single night. Then one night, she didn't wake up for it. That's when I heard the knocking. Her name was Chloe, nursing student, chronically sleep deprived, the kind of girl who drank iced coffee at midnight and called it self-care. We shared a tiny off-campus apartment near our university, and every night for 6 months straight, an alarm went off at exactly 3:17 a.m. Not 3:15, not 3:20, exactly 3:17. At first I hated it. The alarm sound was awful too, not a normal ringtone, just this loud old school bell sound that felt aggressive in the dark. Every single night it would blast once, and immediately stop. Because Chloe always woke up instantly to turn it off. Then she'd leave the room for around 5 minutes. Come back, go back to sleep. I asked her about it once. She laughed nervously. Family thing. That was it. No explanation. Over time, it became weirdly normal. Until one Thursday night, we both stayed up late, cramming for finals. Chloe was exhausted, like scary exhausted. At one point, she literally fell asleep, sitting upright with flashcards in her hand before bed. She looked at me strangely. If my alarm goes off tonight, don't answer the door. I laughed. What door? She didn't answer. Just climbed into bed. At 3:17 a.m., the alarm exploded through the apartment. I jolted awake immediately, but Chloe didn't move at all. Chloe, I mumbled. Nothing. The alarm kept screaming. I sat up. Chloe, still nothing. That's when panic hit me, because she always woke up immediately. I grabbed her shoulder and shook her harder. Her skin felt freezing cold. Then finally, she opened her eyes wide, terrified, not sleepy, terrified. Did you answer it? She whispered. What? The door. My stomach tightened. Then 3 knocks echoed through the apartment. Slow, heavy, directly at our front door. 3:17 a.m. Exactly. Chloe started hyperventilating instantly. No. I turned on my phone flashlight. What the hell is happening? Another 3 knocks. The apartment suddenly felt too quiet. No traffic outside. No neighbors. Nothing. Just knocking. Chloe grabbed my wrist painfully hard. Do not open it. Who is it? Tears filled her eyes immediately. I don't know anymore. That sentence made my blood run cold. The knocking came again. This time louder. Bang, bang. Then a man's voice, soft, calm. Chloe. Every hair on my body stood up because somehow he sounded close. Too close. Like he was standing right beside me instead of outside the apartment. Chloe buried her face in her knees. He found me. What are you talking about? She looked up slowly and whispered. My brother died at 3:17. The room went silent. When we were kids. She continued shakily. Somebody knocked on our front door in the middle of the night. Another knock interrupted her. Bang, bang, bang. We thought it was our dad coming home drunk again. Her voice cracked. My brother opened the door. I couldn't breathe and there was nobody there. Cold spread through my chest. Then she whispered. But after that, he started acting different. The knocking stopped completely. Silence swallowed the apartment. Then Chloe said something worse. He kept hearing knocking every night after. I stared at her. He stopped sleeping. He said something stood outside his bedroom window every night. At 3:17 asking to be let in. My skin crawled instantly. Then came the worst part. 1 week later, she whispered. My brother killed himself. Another voice suddenly came through the door. This time female, you should let us in, Chloe. I physically froze because the voice sounded exactly like Chloe. She heard it too. I watched the color drain from her face. That's not possible. The voice laughed softly outside. Then mom misses you. Chloe started crying. Our mom died last year. I grabbed my phone immediately. I'm calling the police. No. She lunged toward me so fast it scared me. If you talk to them, it notices. What notices? Then the doorknob slowly started turning. Not rattling, turning like someone had a key. I backed away instinctively, Chloe. That's why I set the alarm. Her entire body was shaking. I have to be awake before it comes. I stared at her. What comes? She looked toward the front door and whispered. The thing pretending to be people we love. The lock clicked, unlocked. Neither of us moved. Then the door slowly creaked open. Dark hallway outside, empty, at first. Then my phone flashlight flickered toward the end of the hall and landed on a man standing completely still, tall, wrong somehow, like his arms were too long, his face hidden in shadow, but his voice sounded exactly like my dad. Honey, it said gently, come here. I almost moved automatically. That's the horrifying part, because it sounded real, warm, safe. Then Chloe screamed. Don't look at its face. I shut my eyes instantly. The thing laughed softly, not human laughter, wet gurgling. Then footsteps started moving toward us, slowly dragging. I grabbed Chloe's arm. What do we do? She was sobbing now. It only leaves if someone answers the door willingly. My heart stopped. What? Then the thing spoke again. Now using my little sister's voice, Emma. Tears filled my eyes instantly because my sister died 3 years earlier. Car accident. Instantly. I hadn't heard her voice since. Please, it whispered. I'm cold. I almost broke right there. Almost. Then Chloe screamed at me. That's how it gets in. The thing stopped walking. Silence. Then slowly, I heard smiling in its voice. You finally told someone. Chloe went completely still beside me and whispered, that's never happened before. Then the apartment lights shut off, pitch black, and directly beside my ear, something whispered in my dead sister's voice. You were easier when you were grieving. My boyfriend's mom hugged me at dinner and whispered, if he proposes tonight, say no. Then she slid a pregnancy test into my purse. I thought she was trying to ruin my relationship. I had no idea she was trying to save my life. His name was Mason. Golden retriever energy. Perfect smile. Finance job. The kind of man my friends called husband material after meeting him once. We'd been dating 11 months when he invited me to his parents' lake house for 4th of July weekend. I was nervous because I'd never met his family. Mason kept reassuring me the whole drive. My mom's gonna love you. That should have comforted me. Instead, it weirdly sounded rehearsed. The second we arrived, his mother opened the door before we even knocked. Diane, beautiful in a cold, expensive way. Pearl earrings, perfect posture, and eyes that immediately locked onto me like she was studying evidence. She hugged me tightly, too tightly, then whispered directly into my ear. If he asks tonight, say no. I froze. What? But she'd already pulled away smiling. Mason, sweetheart, help your father with the grill. Like nothing happened. The entire afternoon felt wrong after that. His dad barely spoke. His younger sister looked terrified of everyone, and Diane kept watching me, not judging, worrying. At dinner, Mason reached under the table and squeezed my hand. You okay? Before I could answer, his mother dropped a wine glass. It shattered everywhere. Everyone jumped except Mason. He looked annoyed. Diane stared at me while kneeling to clean it, then quietly said, "Emily, could you help me in the kitchen?" The second we were alone, she grabbed my wrist. "Are you on birth control?" My stomach dropped. "What? You need to answer me honestly." I pulled away immediately. That's insanely inappropriate. She looked like she wanted to say something else, then stopped herself. Instead, she opened a drawer, pulled out a small box, and shoved it into my purse. "A pregnancy test. What the hell is wrong with you?" I whispered, her eyes filled with tears instantly. "Please." That was it, just please. Then Mason walked in, and Diane's entire personality changed. Bright smile, calm voice, desserts ready. Like the conversation never happened. That night, fireworks exploded outside while everyone drank on the dock. Mason disappeared briefly to grab something from inside. The second he left, his sister Harper leaned toward me fast. "You need to leave." Every hair on my body stood up. "What?" Her hands were shaking. "He gets worse after engagement." My heart stopped. Before I could ask anything, Mason came back smiling with a velvet ring box. The entire family went silent. No excitement, no cheering, just silence. Then Mason got down on one knee, and his mother started crying. Not happy, crying, terrified crying. "Emily Parker," he smiled. "Will you marry me?" I looked around, his father staring at the floor, Harper visibly panicking, Diane shaking her head almost invisibly. Something inside me screamed, so I said, "Can I think about it?" Mason froze. The smile didn't disappear, but something behind it did. For half a second, his face became completely empty. Of course, too calm, way too calm. Later that night, I locked myself in the guest room and finally opened the pregnancy test box. Inside wasn't just a test. There was a folded note, 3 words, "Check the vent." I stared at it for 10 straight seconds, then slowly looked toward the air vent near the floor. I actually debated ignoring it, because this was insane. But curiosity won. I unscrewed the vent cover with a butter knife and found dozens of folded papers shoved inside. My hands started shaking immediately. They were letters, all written by women, different handwriting, different dates, but every single one started similarly. If you're reading this, you're probably engaged to Mason. My blood turned to ice. One letter described him smashing a girl's phone because she went to brunch without texting him back. Another described him locking someone in a bathroom during arguments. Another said, "He tracks your cycle. Don't get pregnant." Pregnancy is when he stops pretending. I physically stopped breathing. Then I found a photo. Bruised wrists, bruised neck, and written on the back. He said nobody would believe me because he comes from a perfect family. I heard footsteps outside the bedroom. I quickly shoved everything back into the vent. Then Mason knocked softly. "You okay in there?" I couldn't answer because suddenly every little thing made sense. The constant location sharing, the subtle guilt trips, the way he once got angry because a waiter called me pretty. Then Mason's voice came again. Softer this time, Emily. The doorknob moved slightly locked. Silence. Then finally, "Don't embarrass me in front of my family." Cold flooded my chest because it wasn't a request, it was a warning. I barely slept. At 3 a.m. I quietly packed my bag when I opened the bedroom door. Diane was already standing there, like she'd been waiting. She looked exhausted. "You found the letters." Not a question. I nodded slowly. "Why didn't you stop him?" Tears immediately filled her eyes. "Because I married his father." That answer hit me instantly. Generational learned behavior. Fear. Then she whispered, "I failed the others." "I couldn't fail you too." My throat tightened. "How many others were there?" She looked away. 3 engagements. My stomach dropped, and none of them stayed. "Because of the letters." "No," she whispered. "Because eventually they all escaped." Then footsteps creaked upstairs. Mason. Diane immediately shoved car keys into my hand. "Go. Now. What about you?" Her smile broke my heart. "Mothers like me don't usually leave." Then she quietly added, "But maybe daughters still can." I drove 3 hours home shaking the entire way. Blocked Mason on everything. Changed my locks. And 2 weeks later, I took the pregnancy test. Negative. Thank God. But sometimes I still think about Diane standing in that hallway alone, waiting for another girl to save before her son became someone else's nightmare. My mom smiled when the doctor said I was infertile. That's how I realized she'd been poisoning me for years. I was 23 when the doctor called me back into the office alone. Not with my boyfriend, not with my mom, just me. Dr. Reynolds shut the door carefully, then sat down across from me with this look I'll never forget, concern mixed with confusion. "Emily," she said slowly, "have you been exposed to heavy metals?" I laughed nervously. "What? Lead, mercury, arsenic?" My stomach tightened immediately. "No." She turned her monitor toward me. "Your test results are abnormal." The room suddenly felt too small. I'd spent almost a year feeling exhausted, hair falling out, random stomach pain, bruises appearing out of nowhere, and now infertility at 23. "Your body's showing signs of long-term toxic exposure," she said carefully. I stared at her, then remembered something horrifying. My mother always made my tea every night. Since I was 13, I immediately hated myself for even thinking it, because my mom wasn't abusive, at least not physically. She was just obsessed with me, staying close. She cried when I applied to out-of-state colleges, called my boyfriends temporary distractions, once fake, fainted when I mentioned moving in with someone. Still, poison? That sounded insane. Then I walked into the waiting room, and my mom stood up too quickly. "Well?" she asked. I looked at her, and for 1 second, I swear she looked excited. I forced a smile. "They need more tests." Her shoulders visibly relaxed. That was the first moment I got scared. That night, I couldn't sleep, so around 2 a.m. I started searching symptoms online. Heavy metal poisoning, fatigue, infertility, hair loss, neurological problems. Then one line made my blood run cold. Common sources include contaminated food or repeated low dose exposure, repeated low dose. My brain immediately went to the tea. Chamomile every single night before bed, always made by my mother. I told myself I was being paranoid. Until the next morning, I walked into the kitchen quietly and caught my mom pouring something from a tiny brown bottle into my mug. She jumped when she saw me too hard. "What's that?" Her smile came instantly. "Vitamins." "Why are you putting vitamins in my tea?" "Because you never take care of yourself." She handed me the mug. "Drink before it gets cold." I stared at it, then dumped it into the sink the second she left the room that afternoon. I drove back to the clinic and begged Dr. Reynolds to test the tea residue from the thermos I poured into earlier. 3 days later, she called me crying. "You need to contact the police." My entire body went numb. There was arsenic in the tea. Not enough to kill me quickly, just enough to slowly destroy my body over time. The room started spinning. "No." Then came the worst part. Dr. Reynolds asked, "How long has your mother been preparing your food?" I started shaking, because suddenly childhood memories started replaying differently. Mom refusing to let me cook. Mom insisting homemade meals were safer. Mom getting furious anytime I ate at friends' houses. Then I remembered my older sister Claire. She died when I was 11. Everyone said it was a weak heart, but Claire used to complain about stomach pain too. Hair loss too. Fatigue too. I couldn't breathe. I drove straight to my aunt's house, the only family member my mother hated. When I told Aunt Melissa everything, she went completely silent. Then she whispered, "Oh my God." "What?" She sat down slowly. "Your sister tried to tell me." My heart stopped. "What?" "A month before she died, Claire told me your mother was putting special medicine in her drinks." The world tilted sideways. "What did you do?" "I told your mom." I stared at her in horror. I thought Claire was imagining things. I started sobbing instantly. Then Aunt Melissa said something even worse. "Your mother always blamed you girls for ruining her life." Cold spread through my chest. "She didn't want children," my aunt whispered. "But your father refused abortion." Everything suddenly connected. The controlling behavior, the isolation, the way mom acted more possessive than loving. Then my aunt quietly added, "After Claire died, your mother became obsessed with keeping you dependent." I couldn't breathe. "She sabotaged every relationship you ever had." I thought about all the boyfriends who randomly stopped calling, the college acceptance letters that must have gotten lost. The job's mom convinced me not to take. Then I remembered something horrifying. 2 months earlier, I told her my boyfriend Ethan proposed. That's when my symptoms suddenly got worse, like she got desperate. That night, police searched our house. My mom acted confused at first, then offended, then calm, way too calm, until they found the bottles hidden behind flour containers in the pantry. The detective later told me something I still can't stop thinking about. Most poisoners aren't trying to kill immediately. They want control, dependence, suffering. And my mother had apparently been controlling me through illness my entire life. When they arrested her, she looked directly at me while they put her in handcuffs. No tears, no panic, just disappointment. Then she said the sentence that still wakes me up at night. I was the only person who was ever going to love you enough to keep you. The babysitter told me not to check the basement camera until exactly 9:17 p.m. I thought she was joking. At 9:16, she disappeared. Her name was Hannah. 17 quiet, perfect grades. The kind of girl parents trusted instantly. My mom found her through church, and after 2 months of babysitting my little sister Lily, she practically felt like family, which is why none of us questioned it when she started acting weird that Friday night. I was 16, old enough to stay home alone, but my parents were at some anniversary dinner, and Hannah was technically there for Lily. At first, everything felt normal: pizza, movies, Lily forcing Hannah to wear plastic princess crowns. Then around 8:30, Hannah suddenly checked the clock and went pale. Like genuinely pale. You okay? I asked. She nodded too fast. Yeah, just remember not to check the basement camera until 9:17. I laughed. What? The basement camera? She repeated quietly. No matter what you hear. That made me stop smiling. We had security cameras all over the house because my dad was paranoid after a break. And years ago, one pointed at the basement door, one inside the basement itself. Why would I check it? She didn't answer. Just stared at the clock again. Then at Lily. Then back at me, and for the first time since I met her, she looked scared. At 8:50, the power flickered. Just once, Hannah flinched so hard she dropped her drink. You seriously okay? I asked again. She whispered something under her breath. What? Lock the back door. Now my stomach tightened. I walked to the kitchen. The back door was already locked. When I turned around, Hannah was standing right behind me. I almost screamed. Do not go downstairs tonight, she said. Her voice didn't even sound like hers anymore. Then Lily walked in holding her stuffed rabbit. Hannah, the man's back. Everything went silent. I looked at my little sister. What man? Lily pointed toward the hallway leading to the basement door. The smiling one, every hair on my arm stood up. Hannah immediately grabbed Lily's shoulders. Did you see him tonight? Lily nodded casually. By the laundry room. I laughed nervously because kids say creepy stuff all the time. Imaginary friends, monsters, whatever. Except Hannah wasn't treating it like imagination. She looked terrified. Then, someone knocked on the basement door. Not the outside door. The basement door inside our house. 3 slow knocks. I froze. Lily buried her face into Hannah's stomach. Another knock. My brain immediately tried rationalizing it. Pipes. Old house. Dad downstairs maybe. But Dad wasn't home, and the knock sounded deliberate. Hannah slowly pulled out her phone, checked the time. 9:11. Then she whispered, "We're too early. What the hell does that mean?" Before she could answer, the basement doorknob moved, slowly, like someone was trying it from the other side. I grabbed Lily immediately. What is happening? Hannah finally looked at me, eyes full of tears. I need you to trust me. Then she did something insane. She walked to the breaker panel and shut off every light in the house. Darkness swallowed everything. Lily started crying. Hannah, be quiet, she hissed. The basement doorknob stopped moving. Then came footsteps, slow, heavy, directly underneath us, like someone walking in circles below the floorboards. I couldn't breathe. This isn't funny anymore. Hannah grabbed my wrist hard enough to hurt. Listen to me carefully. At exactly 9:17, you checked the basement camera, not before. Why? She looked like she was about to throw up. Because if you look before then, he notices. My entire body went cold. Then, all the footsteps stopped. Silence. Complete silence. And suddenly Hannah whispered, "He's upstairs. I swear to God." Something moved at the end of the hallway. Tall. Too tall, like a shadow bending wrong. I grabbed Lily and locked us in the bathroom. Hannah stayed outside. Hannah? I whispered through the door. No answer. Then, the bathroom lights turned back on. The power had returned. I looked at the clock, 9:17. Exactly. And Hannah was gone. Just gone. No footsteps, no scream, nothing. I shakily pulled out my phone and opened the security app. Basement camera static at first. Then the image cleared. I almost dropped the phone. The basement was empty, except for one thing, a chair positioned directly in front of the camera. And sitting in it was Hannah, bound to the chair with duct tape. Crying, I spun toward the bathroom door, because that made no sense. She had been outside 2 seconds ago. Then Hannah on the camera suddenly started screaming, "Don't look behind you!" I turned anyway, and saw Lily smiling. Not normal smiling, wide, too wide, like it hurt. Then my little sister spoke in a voice that wasn't hers. "You looked too early last time too." The bathroom door slowly creaked open behind us, and on the camera feed, the thing standing behind Hannah started waving at me through the screen. I thought my boyfriend was cheating on me every Thursday night. Turns out he was hiding a little girl who looked exactly like him. His name was Caleb. We'd been together almost a year, long enough that he left hoodies at my apartment, long enough that my friends called him my future husband, long enough that I noticed the pattern. Every Thursday at exactly 6:30 p.m. he disappeared. Didn't matter what we were doing. Dinner, movies, sex, he'd suddenly check his phone, go quiet, then say, "I gotta handle something." At first I ignored it. People have routines. But then I started noticing other things. He never let me see his phone on Thursdays. He stopped posting on Instagram completely. And once, while he was in the shower, his phone lit up beside me. A text preview. "She's asking where you are." No name, just that. My stomach dropped. I didn't say anything. But after that, every Thursday felt different. He'd kiss me goodbye, and I'd spend the rest of the night imagining another woman. Then came the lipstick. Not on him. In his car, tiny pink lip gloss tube under the passenger seat. Definitely not mine. When I held it up, Caleb froze for half a second, then smiled too quickly. Oh, that's probably my cousin's lie. I knew it was a lie because Caleb was terrible at lying. And suddenly, every little thing started connecting in my head. The Thursday disappearances, the secretive texts, the way he sometimes smelled like baby shampoo. I told myself not to become that girl. The paranoid one. But paranoia feels a lot like intuition when you're being lied to. So the next Thursday, I followed him. I hated myself for it, but I still did it. He drove 30 minutes across town, not to a house, not to a hotel, to a hospital. My heart stopped. I watched him park near the children's wing, then get out carrying a stuffed dinosaur, and that's when I saw her. Little girl, maybe 6 years old, curly dark hair, big brown eyes, and she ran straight into his arms yelling, "Daddy!" Everything inside me shattered. I actually stopped breathing because she looked exactly like him. Same smile, same dimples, same eyes. I sat in my car feeling physically sick. He had a whole child, a whole secret family. I watched through the glass while he carried her inside. She wrapped her arms around his neck like she'd done it 1,000 times. Then he kissed the top of her head, and I cried so hard I had to cover my mouth. I should have left. Instead, I went inside. I don't even even know why. Anger maybe, or heartbreak, or the need to see how far the lie went. I followed them down the hallway until I heard the little girl laughing in one of the rooms. Then Caleb walked back out alone and froze when he saw me. All the color left his face. Emily, I just stared at him. You have a daughter? He looked like he'd been punched. Please let me explain. Explain what? My voice cracked loud enough that a nurse looked over. You've been lying to me for a year. It's not what you think. I laughed. Because what else could it be? She calls you daddy, Caleb? His eyes filled immediately. And suddenly, he didn't look guilty. He looked terrified. Then he said the sentence that changed everything. She's not mine. Silence. What? He swallowed hard. She was my little sister. I felt the floor disappear underneath me. What? She died 6 years ago. I stared at him like my brain couldn't process the words. Then slowly, he looked through the hospital room window. The little girl inside was coloring in bed, bald, tiny, connected to tubes. That's Ava, he whispered. She has leukemia. I couldn't speak. She's my sister's daughter. The room spun. My sister died during surgery when Ava was a baby. His voice cracked. The father disappeared. I looked through the glass again. The little girl waved at him. Then I noticed something horrifying. She really did look exactly like him because she was family. I've been raising her since she was 2. I covered my mouth. She calls me daddy because he stopped to breathe. Because I'm the only parent she remembers. Everything inside me collapsed at once. The suspicion, the anger, the jealousy, all of it. Then I asked the question that suddenly mattered more than anything. Why didn't you tell me? He looked away. Because the last woman I dated left when she found out. That hurt more than I expected. She said she didn't sign up to date someone with baggage. The word baggage hung there like poison. Then quietly, I didn't think I could survive hearing that again. I started crying right there in the hallway because this whole time, I thought he was hiding another woman. But he was actually hiding grief, responsibility, fear. Then Ava suddenly opened the hospital room door. Tiny hospital socks. Stuffed dinosaur tucked under one arm. She looked at me, then at Caleb, and smiled. Is this your girlfriend? Caleb looked panicked, like he expected me to run. Instead, I knelt down. Ava studied me carefully, then asked the question that destroyed me completely. Are you staying this time? I looked up at Caleb, and realized someone else had already broken this little girl's heart before I ever arrived. So I hugged her, and whispered, yeah, baby, I think I am. My teacher asked if I wanted to go home because of the rumor. That's how I found out my mother was missing. It was Tuesday morning, second period homeroom. I walked in late because my phone had died overnight, and my alarm never went off. The second I stepped into class, everything felt wrong. People stopped talking, not slowly immediately, like somebody hit pause on the room. 20 kids just staring at me, then looking away. A girl near the windows was crying. 2 football players in the back were whispering and trying not to laugh. And my teacher, Mrs. Bennett, she looked scared of me. Emily, she said carefully, wouldn't you rather go home today? I blinked. What? A few kids exchanged looks. Mrs. Bennett adjusted her glasses. You haven't heard. My stomach tightened. Heard what? Silence. Then one boy muttered, damn. I grabbed my dead phone out of my backpack. Nothing. No charge. No messages. Mrs. Bennett stood up too fast. Emily, maybe you should go speak with the counselor. That made my chest start pounding because teachers only talk like that when somebody died. I looked around the room. Nobody would meet my eyes, except my best friend Ava, and she looked horrified. I practically ran into the hallway and banged on her classroom door. The second her teacher saw my face, he let her out without even asking. That's when I knew this was serious. Teachers never did that. The door shut behind us, and before I could say anything, Ava grabbed me in this crushing hug. Oh my god, she whispered. My blood went cold. What happened? She started crying immediately. That scared me more than anything. Ava, she pulled back slowly. You really don't know? Know what? Her face twisted like she didn't want to say it. Then finally, everyone thinks your mom killed someone. The hallway tilted. What? Words started spilling out of her. There's this video online. People were posting it all morning. What video? A woman attacked somebody outside a gas station last night, and that could be anybody. Ava looked sick. Emily, they're saying it was your mom. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was impossible. My mom was a nurse. Quiet, exhausted all the time. The kind of woman who apologized to furniture when she bumped into it. No. Ava grabbed my arm. There's more. That's when my principal walked into the hallway, and the look on his face made my stomach drop even harder. Emily, he said gently, your uncle is here. My uncle Marcus lived 2 hours away. He only showed up for funerals. I stopped breathing. He drove me home in silence, didn't answer questions, just kept gripping the steering wheel harder every time my phone buzzed with notifications. When we finally pulled into my driveway, there were police cars everywhere. My legs almost gave out. Neighbors stood outside pretending not to stare. Yellow tape across our porch. I turned to my uncle. Where's my mom? He looked like he hadn't slept in days. She's missing. Everything inside me froze. What? He swallowed. The woman in the video? It was her. I started shaking. No. She attacked a man outside a gas station around midnight. That's not possible. Then my uncle said the sentence that changed everything. The man she attacked was your father. My heart stopped. My parents had divorced 3 years earlier. Dad moved to another state. I hadn't seen him in months. What happened? My uncle looked away. They found his car this morning. And silence? Uncle Marcus? There was blood. I couldn't breathe. Then police walked out of the house carrying boxes. One officer glanced at me with this horrible expression. Not suspicion. Pity. That was worse. I stumbled inside before anyone could stop me. The living room was chaos. Couch cushions ripped open. Kitchen drawers dumped out. Then I saw it. My mom's purse, still sitting by the door, which made no sense. She never went anywhere without it. I opened it. Inside was her phone, dead, and underneath it, a folded receipt from a gas station. Timestamp 11:47 p.m., the same time as the attack. My hands shook as I unfolded the back. There was handwriting, just 3 words. He found us. I felt sick. What does that mean? Nobody answered. Then one detective walked over slowly. Emily, he said carefully, there's something you need to know about your father. I stared at him. He wasn't supposed to know where you lived. The room went silent. Then my uncle closed his eyes, and I realized every adult in my life knew something I didn't. The detective looked at me. Your mother changed your names after the divorce. Cold spread through my chest. What? Your father was arrested when you were little. I backed up. No, he was violent. My uncle finally spoke. She ran to protect you. My brain couldn't process it all those years. The sudden move, the locked windows, my mom panicking anytime strange cars slowed near the house. Then the detective said the worst part. Last night your father found her. I started crying before he even finished. She met him at the gas station alone. Why? To keep him away from you. Everything blurred. Then I remembered the rumor, the video. What did people see? The detective hesitated. Then quietly, they saw your mother hit him with her car. The room spun. What? She fled after. I stared at him. So my dad is dead? Silence? Then, we haven't found a body. That was the moment I realized something even worse. My mother wasn't missing. She was hiding. And nobody knew if she was running from my father, or because she finally killed him. At my little sister's 10th birthday party, the magician asked if my dad still slept in the basement. I laughed, because I thought it was part of the act. He was standing by the folding table where my mom had set out pizza and Capri Suns, pulling quarters out of kids' ears while my sister Chloe and her friends screamed like he'd invented magic. He looked normal enough, black suit, silver tie, neat beard, 40s maybe, the kind of guy parents trust around children because he looks like he pays taxes. He crouched down beside me while Chloe was showing everyone her new bracelet. "You're Emily, right?" I nodded. Then he smiled and said quietly, "Does your dad still sleep in the basement?" My stomach dropped so fast it actually hurt. I just stared at him, because he said it like he already knew the answer. And the worst part, he was right. My dad had been sleeping in the basement for almost 8 months. Nobody ever explained why. My parents called it temporary. Dad snores. Dad works late. Dad likes the quiet. Every excuse changed depending on who asked. I swallowed. "How do you know that?" His face changed, not scared, just sad. Then he stood up. "Tell your mother I came," and walked away. That was it. No magic trick. No explanation. He packed up 10 minutes early and left before I could say anything else. I stood there frozen while Chloe ran around with cake, frosting on her face. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. That night, after everyone left, I found my mom in the kitchen, wrapping leftover cake in foil. "Who was that guy?" She didn't even look up. "The magician." "No," I said. "Who was he?" That got her attention. Her whole body went still. "Why, he knew Dad sleeps in the basement." The foil slipped out of her hand. For a second, I thought she might actually faint. "Emily," she said quietly, "don't ask questions you don't understand." That made it worse, because in our house, that sentence always meant someone was lying. I didn't sleep much that night. Around 2 in the morning, I heard voices downstairs. My parents whispering, fighting. I crept halfway down the stairs. My mom sounded panicked. "Why now?" My dad said something I couldn't hear. Then, "She shouldn't have come here." My heart started pounding. Then my dad said the sentence that made my skin go cold. "She promised she'd never tell the girls." "The girls, me and Chloe?" I stepped backward too fast, and the floor creaked. Silence. Then my dad looked up. "Emily?" I ran upstairs and locked my door. The next morning, nobody said a word. Dad was cheerful. Mom was quiet. Chloe was busy opening birthday presents. It almost felt normal, until I noticed something weird. My dad's basement door was open. That never happened. He kept it locked. Always. Even when he was down there. I don't know why I went in, maybe because, once you know something's wrong, not knowing feels worse. The basement smelled like dust and old cardboard. At first it looked normal, shelves, storage bins, laundry. Then I saw the metal filing cabinet in the corner, locked. Except one drawer wasn't shut all the way. Inside were old photos. A woman I'd never seen before. Dad much younger, holding a baby. My blood turned to ice. On the back, in blue ink it said, "Emily, 2008. I stopped breathing. That was my name. But that wasn't me. I was born in 2009. Then I heard footsteps upstairs. Fast. I shoved the photo into my hoodie. Ran back up. My dad was standing there. And he knew. "What were you doing down there?" I couldn't even answer. He stepped closer. Dad looked up at me. "The man who took her." Silence. Then I asked the question that still makes me sick. "Why did he ask if you still sleep in the basement?" My dad started crying, the first time I had ever seen it, because after she died, he said, "I never slept upstairs again." That night, I went into Chloe's room. She was asleep with frosting still in her hair. I sat beside her until morning, because suddenly I understood something. My whole life, I thought my dad sleeping in the basement meant he was leaving us. I was wrong. He'd been sleeping under our bedrooms for 16 years. Like if he stayed close enough, nobody could take another daughter. I realized my house was a crime scene when I broke somebody else's coffee mug and started shaking. I was 14 and at home, forgetting one thing could ruin your whole night. One Tuesday, I forgot to take out the trash before 6. I started crying before my mom even said anything, because I already knew. She grabbed my wrist, dragged me into the kitchen, and dumped a bag of uncooked rice across the tile kneel. I dropped. The rice felt like 1,000 tiny needles. She set the microwave for 20 minutes. "If you move, I start over." 5 minutes in, my knees were numb. 10 minutes in, I couldn't feel my feet. She stood there watching me. "This is love," she said. "I'm making you strong." That wasn't the worst part. That was normal. If I got a B instead of an A. She locked me outside for hours in the summer heat. No water, no phone, no shade. Neighbors walked past and pretended not to see. "The world is cruel," she'd say. When she finally opened the door, "I'm preparing you." I believed her. Until Ava transferred into my class. She sat next to me in English. Funny loud. The kind of girl who made teachers laugh and somehow got away with it. After I helped her with a paper, she said, "Come over after school. My mom makes the best Filipino food in New Jersey." I almost said no. I was already calculating the time in my head, how long I could stay, how fast I'd have to run home. But I hadn't really eaten in 2 days except cafeteria fries. So I went. Her house was 6 blocks away, small blue 2-story. Tomato plants in the yard, a doormat that said welcome in 3 languages. Her mom opened the door before we even knocked. "You must be Emma," she said. "Come in." I made lumpia. She had flour on her cheek and the whole house smelled like garlic and something sweet baking. Not cigarettes, not wine, not fear. A few minutes later, Ava tripped over their orange cat while carrying juice. The glass shattered everywhere. And I didn't even think. I dropped to my knees and started grabbing broken pieces with my bare hands. "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." I wasn't even the one who dropped it. Ava's mom rushed over, not angry, scared. "Emma, stop. You'll cut yourself." She gently took my hands, turned them over, checking for blood. "Are you okay?" I just stared at her. Ava was laughing. "Sorry, Mom." Her mom ruffled her hair. "It's just juice, baby." Then she grabbed a mop. That was it. No yelling, no timer, no punishment, no lesson. Just a mop. I wish I could explain how strange that felt. At dinner, I reached for a third lumpia and froze. I was waiting for someone to tell me I'd had enough. Instead, her mom slid the whole plate toward me. "Eat." I almost cried right there. Then Ava complained she got a C in English. My body locked up. I waited for the explosion. Her mom just sighed. "Okay, we'll figure out tutoring." I kept staring, because I genuinely didn't understand what I was seeing. It felt like watching people speak a language I'd never heard before. Later, we were washing dishes, and I accidentally knocked over a mug. It hit the tile, shattered. Everything inside me went cold. My chest locked up. My knees actually buckled. I could already feel the rice, the timer, the heat outside. I couldn't breathe. "It's okay," Ava's mom said softly, and that's when I broke. Not crying, sobbing, the kind where you can't stop your body. She set the broom down immediately, knelt next to me. Emma, she said quietly, why are you so scared? Ava was staring at me. What did you think was gonna happen? And I couldn't hold it in anymore. I told them everything. The rice, the locked doors, the sun, the grades, the way I'd learned to apologize for things that hadn't even happened yet. Ava's mom went completely still. I watched her face change, shock, then anger. Then something worse. Grief. She pulled me into a hug so tight I couldn't move and whispered, how long has this been happening? Since I was 8. The room went silent. Then she stood up. Calm, too calm. You're not going home tonight. My heart stopped. She'll kill me. No, she said, and for the first time in my life, I heard an adult sound absolutely certain she won't. She picked up her phone, dialed, and said, hi, I need to report child abuse. That night, I slept in Ava's room. I didn't sleep much. I kept waiting for my mom to burst through the door. She never did. The next morning, a social worker came, and then a police officer. And here's the part that still haunts me. When they searched our house, they photographed the kitchen floor, the rice, the bruises on my knees, the locks on the outside of my bedroom door. The officer looked at me and said quietly, Emma, this is a crime scene. And that was the first time I realized love was never supposed to hurt like that. At my 10th birthday party, the clown asked if there were any cops there. I thought he meant for a magic trick. Yeah, I said, pointing at my Uncle Finn by the grill. He was laughing with my dad, burger tongs in one hand, his canine partner Duke stretched out beside him in the grass. The clown's smile changed, not gone, just tighter. Then he put a hand on my shoulder. Come with me for a second. I followed him, because I was 10. And because when you're 10, the clown is supposed to be the safe person, we walked past the gift table, past the bounce house, all the way to a white van parked at the curb. He opened the back doors, reached inside, and pulled out a wrapped box about the size of a shoebox. He pushed it into my hands. Give this to your parents. His voice had gone low. Don't open it, and don't let your uncle see it. I remember blinking up at him. What is it? He looked over my shoulder toward the party, then back at me. Just promise. Then he got in the van, drove away. No joke. No balloon animal. Nothing. And suddenly that box felt way heavier than it should have. I started walking back. Halfway there, Uncle Finn spotted me. He'd been a cop for 15 years. Even off duty, he noticed everything. Hey, kiddo, he called. Where'd you get that? The clown? I tried to keep walking. That's when Duke exploded. He lunged so hard his leash snapped tight, barking, growling, locked onto the box in my arms. Every conversation at the party stopped. Music still playing. Kids frozen. My stomach dropped. Emily, Uncle Finn said, and now it was his cop voice. Hand me the box. I clutched it tighter. He said not to let you see it. That changed everything. My dad looked up from the grill. My mom was already walking toward us. Duke kept barking. Parents started pulling their kids back. My birthday party suddenly felt like a crime scene. Uncle Finn crouched down in front of me. Sweetheart, right now. So I gave it to him. He set it on the picnic table, and for some reason, everyone stepped back. He peeled off the birthday paper. Inside was another box, then another, then a sealed plastic bag, white powder. A lot of it, even at 10. I knew what it looked like, but that's not what I remember most. I remember looking at my parents because they didn't look confused. They looked terrified. My mom started crying immediately. My dad went completely pale. I whispered, what is it? Nobody answered. Then Uncle Finn said quietly, who hired the clown? That's when my dad sat down, like his knees stopped working. And that was the moment I learned the thing nobody had ever told me. My parents were recovering addicts. They'd been clean for 5 years. Long enough that I never knew. Long enough that all my memories of them were normal. Pancakes, movie nights, my dad teaching me to ride a bike, but somebody knew who they used to be and somebody wanted them to fall. I thought that was the whole story. It wasn't because Uncle Finn didn't look at the powder. He looked at the wrapping paper. There was writing inside the fold, just 3 words. Welcome back, Rachel. My mom made this sound I had never heard before, like all the air left her body. Who's Rachel? I asked. Nobody spoke. Then she whispered, my old dealer. The room went cold. Uncle Finn grabbed his radio and called it in. Then he asked my mom the question that changed everything. Did you tell him where we'd be today? My mom shook her head, but my dad didn't. He just stared at the ground, and suddenly I knew. He had. Later that night, after everyone left, I heard them screaming in the kitchen. Turns out my dad had been talking to the guy again, just for money. He kept saying he hadn't used, but he'd borrowed cash, and when he couldn't pay it back, they came to my birthday party, used me to deliver it. I'm 26 now. My parents are still together, still sober. My dad says that was the day he got scared enough to save his own life. But I still think about one thing. The clown knew my name, and nobody ever told him.